process change. It's very simple but widely used because in the support project, because in BW is my data loading is one-time process or daily. So we cannot schedule it manually. So we need to have some automating scheduling tool which we use it process change for scheduling things in the background. Set of processes connected like a chain, we call that as process. That's it. We'll have different set of processes which are connected like a chain, which we refer it as process chains. So what do you mean by a process? What is a process here? Not any activity which you can schedule that in the background is a process. For example, deleting index, we can do this in the background of a cube is a process. Creating index, refreshing DB statistics, roll up of aggregates, compression of a cube, running DTP, executing info package. Any process you can do in the background will become a process, can be a process of in a process chain. Only background processing, because process chain purely runs in background, so only activities which can be scheduled in the background can come into process chain, others can't come in. Okay, and we'll have something called variables. Every process will have a variable. For example, you give me a BW system and you ask me to delete the index of a cube. Will I straight away go and delete? I should know which cube, right? So I ask you which cube, that is variant. So deleting index on a cube is a process. On which object we need to perform that process is variant. So delete index of a cube is a process. On which cube I need to perform this process is my variant. That's it. Do you understand what is variant now? Okay. And in process chain, every process will be associated with the variant. You delete index into a cube, roll up into a cube, compression into a cube. Say do attribute change for which info object. So every process will have variant information always associated with it.
What is the difference between a process and a job?
Process is a kind of activity, and when you do this in multiple iterations, each iteration is a job. Say delete index is a process which says you need to drop the index of a cube. Definition of a job is process, and every iteration of the process is a job. Got point? Okay. Okay, boss. And we use a T code RSPC to create process chains. Okay. And we'll have something called direct chain and meta chain. So direct chain, we'll have two types of process chains, direct chains or meta chains. A chain which can be scheduled directly, we call that as direct chain. But say the chain which you don't want to schedule it directly and you want to include this chain into another chain, we call that as meta chains. Chain, normally what they do is, even in the real time, they modularize the process chains. They don't try to build one big chain. Like say, I want to load customer master, I would like to load product master, I would like to load different master data, then I would like to load transaction data. Then what they'll do, they'll create one process chain for customer master, product master, each individual chains, then group them to form one big chain as master data chain. Then what I'll do, so because if we do this, when they want to run the complete master data, they can run the main chain. When they want to run any scheduling of smaller parts, they can do the smaller chains can be triggered. That's the benefit of doing it. Okay. So when you have the chain scheduled directly, we call that as direct chain. But if you have a chain which includes all the other chains into it, we call that as meta chains. Clear on this? Okay.
It could be another advantage that if one of the chain fails, the others still continue.
No. So I've got process chain 1, process chain 2, process 3. You include all these into another process chain as what? Process chain 1 first, then connect that to 2, then connect that to 3. Even if process chain 1 fails, obviously other subtopics hold, even though they are different chains, because each one is considered as a sequential process. Okay, boss. So now let's try to understand. And one more thing, it's like more or less like a flow chart. How you would have flow chart, okay? And every process chain you create, it will have a process called start. Like like deleting index or creating index, you'll have a process called start and untundi, and every process chain must start with a start process. Start and flow chart. How would you have start and end? Similar way, your process chain will have start always. Every process chain will have a start process. So now, if this is a process, should this have variant? అంతేగాని ఇది ప్రాసెస్ అయితే దీనికి ఒక వేరియంట్ ఉండాల్సింది నా. సో వేరియంట్ ఏంటంటే, say for example I have process chain, it will have start process, and the variant of the start process will have all the scheduling details of the chain. Whether should this chain run directly or should I include this chain into another chain? If it is directly, should it run every daily once or every hourly once? All the scheduling details of the chain would be in variant of your start process. That's the concept. Every process chain would have a start process, and the start process also would have a variant, and the variant of your start process would have all the details of the scheduling of the chain. How it is going to be scheduled. So, okay, good. And before we start creating, I can go to RSPC or RS7, I can get into process chains also. I just want to show you different set of processes. Look at this. This is where different set of processes been given, and you just have to drag each and every process what you want and start building a chain. That's it. Right? Let's see what all processes do we have here. Interrupt is a process when you want to stop at a place. Let's say I have start, I do some step 1, step 2, step 3, then I would like to do some condition check. If some condition fails, I need to stop the chain in processing. So I can use what? Interrupt process to stop your chain in the middle. Okay. Then start is a process which is the, look at this, every chain would have a start process to start up. And when do you use and? Let's say I got P1, P2, and when both are successful, I need to trigger P3. So I'll connect P1 and P2 with and then gets to P3. So when both are successful, only then it triggers to P3. Then or ante anyone. So I got P1, P2, or and then P3. And XOR is what? And with or combination. When both are successful or when both are failed. Then don't worry about this one. That is my own custom one. Then what is ABAP program? So can if you want to run the ABAP program in the background, can we use this process type? Yes. Then if you want to trigger a OS command from process chain, it's also possible. Okay. Then local process chain. This is the process chain. This is the process type when you want, say I've got process chain P1 already done. Now I'm creating P2 where I need to include P1 into it. Then I can use this process type local process chain and include a process chain into it. ఒక ప్రాసెస్ ఇంకో ప్రాసెస్ ఇంక్లూడ్ చేయాలంటే లోకల్ ప్రాసెస్ చైన్ అనే ప్రాసెస్ టైప్ వాడతాం. దెన్ రిమోట్ ప్రాసెస్ చైన్, దిస్ ఇస్ ద ఆప్షన్ వెన్ లెట్స్ ఐ గాట్ BW server 1, BW server 2. In BW server 1 I need to trigger process chain of BW server 2. So in BW 1 I'll say local remote process chain and give the process chain name of BW server 2. When this process chain runs, it is going to trigger that process chain in BW server 2. Okay. And workflow, this is like ABAP workflows if you want. Don't worry on that. Now next is what? Decision making between multiple alternatives. So you're just checking something. You want to check some condition. Let's say you have two paths. You want to get into path 1 or path 2 based on some condition. So I can use this process type, create some decision, and based on the results of this decision, it can take any path you want. Okay. And then this is like to check whether is the previous process still active, still running or not. Let's say I got P1, P2, P3. I want to check whether my previous process is still running or not. Okay, then I can use this. Don't worry, this is about starting a job in BO data services. From BW, I would like to trigger a job in BO data services. I can do that. So in BODS, you configured a job with some source, target and mappings, and I would like to trigger that job, then I can do this. Okay. Then we will load. You tell me what is this? Now execute info page. You know about triggering info page. What is read PSN update data target? This was basically a 3-point text flow where we used to upload data from PSA to target manually. Saving hierarchies. Every time we load hierarchies, it must be saved. Yes. What is update data store? Further update. Automatic loading data from ODS to cube. Yeah. You remember in the ODS settings you have checkbox further update automatically means. In that case, if you do this, for every load it creates one new info package. Generally we don't use it. We'll connect ODS to queue with the help of transformation. We'll actually create DTP and trigger that. What is data చెప్పలేదు కదా మీకు ఓపెన్ అప్ డెస్టినేషన్ అని చెప్పినానా I'll చెప్తాలే but that's a simple 5 minutes topic but there's something called data from BW you would like to export data into flat files or you want to export data into other systems then I use something called open up destinations. So when you want to trigger those, then I can info spokes in the older versions. To trigger those info spokes, we use this option. But in the new versions, we have something called open up destination, so we don't need that. You Jappu, what is? What does it mean? Delete overlapping requests of info. You're loading DDP with some selections, and you already have a request with same selections. I would like to delete it. So other day I gave you one option. What is this about? DTP. What is this one? Now when you were bringing real-time data with RDB, is my request open? So if you explicitly want to close that request out, I can use this. Don't worry. Start. This is about starting demand, stopping your demand. Okay. This is about interfacing your information broadcasting. We'll see that. Then administration. What is this? Generate index, construct DB statistics. You all know all this. Then initial fill of aggregates, first time filling. Then roll up of aggregates. Initial activation. Don't worry. This is with HANA comes in. There's something called HANA indexes. That's a different option. Then compression of cube. And then activating data in what is this? In DSO. What is complete deletion of data target? Complete deletion. Yeah. Okay, you want to delete the contents of transaction ODS and direct update DSO. So you want to have direct update DSO, you want to clean that up, you can use it. This is for data archiving. There's something called NLS. Okay, you'll have some secondary databases where you want to have some unread data to an archiving tool. So then we create something called DAP and data archiving process. So when you want to schedule the data archiving process, which will push data from BW to some secondary storages, we use that. Okay, don't worry on that much. Reporting agent is all outdated. Don't worry. But what is this? Wait, why do you do this? When let's say you load master database, it has reflected changes in the navigation database, and you would like to reflect all the aggregates wherever it has been used in, or hierarchies. Adjustment of time dependent aggregates. For example, if your aggregate is time dependent, there's something called navigation attribute. Do you have something called time dependent navigation attribute? So when you use time dependent navigation attribute aggregates, we run this adjustment of time dependent aggregates because time dependent navigation attributes are used. Now what is deletion of request from PSA, deletion of request from changelog, deletion of request from write up as DSO, and executing planning sequence is more relevant to IP integrated planning, so don't worry. Do you know this switching cube to plan mode, load mode? If it is real time cube, which is basically planning queue, we can switch the queue from plan mode to load mode to plan mode. Yeah. Reorganizing of attribute text, nothing but activating your master database. And what is this? APD. You want to trigger this APD in the background in process, I can use this process type. Okay. This update, remember yesterday when I was doing transporting in the import queue, I was saying update import queue. And the same. Sybase IQ, that's fine. So this is like you will have different set of process, and based on the requirement, you should start drag and drop and then create it. That's it, and that becomes a process. Very simple. If you're really strong in BW concepts, this is nothing like that. Okay. So I'm going to create the process change. Now I can only include any activity into process only if it can be scheduled in the background. Otherwise, no. Let's say loading from flat file. If the file is in your client workstation, can you do it in the background?
Yes.
When you're loading from a flat file which is in the client workstation, you cannot do it in background. So Manol is better. Already they've done some flow. మనోడు ఆల్రెడీ అన్ని ఫ్లోలు రెడీ చేసి పెట్టినాడు. వి జస్ట్ హ్యావ్ టు డూ ద లోడింగ్ త్రూ ప్రాసెస్ చైన్స్. లెట్స్ సే ఫస్ట్ PC cube. So I've got simple flow with a flat file data source connected to the cube. But what he has done is he has put that file into the application server. Yes, put that file into application. So can I schedule this in the background? Yes. See, it is enabled. But if I say like client, only those processes which can be scheduled in the background can only come into process instance. Okay, good. I also want to have an aggregate on this cube. So when I do initial activation, I'll try to do it manually, but so every time I load data in cube, should I do roll up? I know now the cube is blank, there's nothing. So now I have got a cube, I've got aggregate. I also want to do compression onto the cube. I also want to build the DB statistics in my cube also. Okay. What is the purpose of DB statistics? It helps your SQL query to find the shortest path to the database here. Now before we build, now just give me all the processes what we going to plan up and in what sequence you want. What is the first one? Any process must start with what? Start. Taravata. Forget about variant. Process don't get about variant is always very simple. System takes it. Only what is it? Running with the execute info package. Okay. Okay. Next. Taravata. So logic రావాలి. Info package PSC goes to DB cube goes. Taravata. ఇంకా ఇంకా డిపెండ్స్ ఆన్ ఐ వాంట్ డూ విత్ రిఫ్రెష్ DB statistics. Overlapping request. Problem ఈ requirement ఏం లేదు. Just in specific case you will get that requirement, but this here I don't want. Now before loading into cube, can I handle my performance with delete index? After loading, can I say generate index? So this is what I want. So I would like to build a procession which can do all these steps, and once I build this, I can schedule this procession to run daily or hourly depending on the requirement. That's it. Ante. Yeah. Let this be here. I'll open another session. అది వైర్లు ఏమి లూజు సర్లే. అట్లా కాదు, కింద ఆ రూట్కున్న కాదు ఆ రూటర్కి ఉన్నాయి కదా అన్ని కేబుల్స్ ఒకసారి గట్టిగా వస్తాను ఒకసారి కింద పీకొద్దు లోపలికి వస్తాను. ఏమన్నా
బిల్ పెడదామా?